All right. So in this video, I want to just quickly show you how to do a part of your thought primer, the next step of your thought primer, that might not make a whole bunch of sense if you just read the written instructions. Okay, so I'm going to show you here how to do what I'm asking you to do, and it's actually pretty simple. You're not going to have any problem with it. Okay, so what I'm asking you to do is create an immediate inference, an argument with one premise. Okay, so to do that, you either have to be given a premise, like I've done with you in the thought primer, or you have to create one. So let's say that I wanted to do something like all KFC outlets are fun places. I say that because I noticed as I was driving to CR today that there's a KFC going up where the Blue Heron used to be hotel. Because if there's anything Humboldt needs, it's more fast food. All right, so let's just say I have this as a statement. And now I would have to determine, well, is this a true or a false statement? Let's say I come to the conclusion, well, I think this is a true statement, and I can defend why I think this is a true statement. I've got this great definition of fun that I think everybody's going to accept, and then I've got all this evidence that shows that every single KFC outlet, meets up with that definition. Once I have that, I can create another standard form categorical proposition that I know will also have to be true if this premise is true. And I can create that by coming down here to my traditional square and remembering I've got all of these rules: the rule of contraries, the rule of subalternation, contraposition, aversion, conversion. And I know that when I apply those rules correctly, I get another statement that will have to be true. So for example, I could come down here and say, well, my premise is an A claim. And the rule of contrary says at least one has to be false. So if it's true that all KFC outlets are fun places, it would have to also be true that it is false that no KFC outlets are fun places. Would have to be true that it's false that no KFC outlets are fun places, because the rule of contrary says at least one of these has to be false when they have the same subject and predicate terms. These have the same subject and predicate terms, so if this is true, that has to be false. Okay, there's a valid immediate inference, and that's all I'm asking you to do. Now, if you don't want to have a conclusion that says it's false, that's fine. In this case, maybe we apply the rule of contraposition. And we say, I'm allowed to contrapose A claims. So if all KFC outlets are fun places, that means all non-fun places are non-KFC outlets. And that would have to be true by contraposition. I could even do something like, well, I'm going to put on my Captain McFancy pants here, and I'm going to say, I'm going to use more than one rule. So I've determined by the rule of contraposition that all non-fun places are non-KFC outlets is true when the premise is true. I know by the rule of subalternation that if I have a true A claim, an I claim with the same subject and predicate terms would also have to be true because truth trickles down. So then we could say, well, if it's true that all non-fun places are non-KFC outlets, then some non-fun places are non-KFC outlets. And that would have to be true. Now watch what I could do. I can just erase this guy, and I've got another valid immediate inference. But it looks kind of cool, right? Because on the surface, you wouldn't be able to determine immediately that this is a valid immediate inference. You could even make it more complicated and say, well, I know if I have an I claim that's true, I can avert that. I can avert anything. And I'm going to wind up with another standard form categorical proposition, and I'll know the truth value of that. So I averted this, right? I changed its quality by making it a negative statement, an O statement, and I replaced the predicate with its term complement. And now I can erase that. And I've still got another valid immediate inference. And again, somebody would look at this and they'd say, wait, you're telling me that because all KFC outlets are fun places, that it's also true that some non-fun places are not KFC outlets? I can't even follow your thinking. And that's where you get to step up and say, well, let me show you the logic. You take this first statement, you contrapose it, then you subalternate it, then you avert it. We could contrapose this thing again if we wanted to. And what you're doing is you would then be proving your argument valid by using logic. And that's all I'm asking you to do. You don't have to do anything super fancy like I did here, but it's kind of fun to play around with this stuff. Now, I'm giving you a premise for this, and you may determine that that premise is false, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. So you just want to set your premise up like this. It's false that all KFC outlets are fun places. All right. Same thing applies. If you have a false A statement, there's certain things you can and can't do. You can't subalternate it. You can never convert an A claim, but you could contradict an A claim, and that's going to give you a true O claim. You could contrapose a false A claim, and that's going to give you another statement that's false, and that's okay. You just do something like this. Therefore, it is false that all non-fun places are non-KFC outlets. Valid immediate inference using contraposition. If it's true that it's false that all KFC outlets are fun places, it will also have to be true that it's false that all non-fun places are non-KFC outlets. Okay, so that's all that I'm asking you to do. Don't let it get you too tripped up.